as much as you can.
Apple cider, that's what we're trying to push on you.
Champagne, wine, snacks, everything. And introducing Nate Waggoner over here is me,
Ow, ow!
Gloria. I'm one of the co-curators along with Casey and Austin. And we're going to be here all damn semester, so come
All
see
year.
us. All year. Yeah, I keep forgetting.
I know. Don't forget.
This is going to end eventually, but not as soon as I thought. And this is Nate Waggoner.
Yay!
Co-curators from last year. And we're going to have him and his fellow co-curators, Yumi Kim. And Kendra, I can never pronounce your last name right. Let's just...
Smith.
Smith, yeah, that. But anyways, up first is Nate. Nate Waggoner's work has appeared in KQED Pop, SF Weekly, Sparkle and Blink, and thefanzine.com. He's a co-founder and contributing editor at The Tusk. He has an MFA in fiction from San Francisco State University. Right? SF Weekly called him one of the best writers in the area without a published book. Last year, he was one of the co-curators of VelRo and worked with and competed regularly at Write Club SF at the same time. At the same time.
Wow.
Recently, he gave it all up to be a karaoke DJ in Brooklyn, working on his novel. In other words, the absolute worst kind of person. Everybody, Nate Waggoner!
Hey guys, I'm going to read a poem. I'm not a poetry guy, but my friend asked me to. She asked like a few of the men that she's closest with in her life to respond to the prompt of who was the man that hurt your mother. And I think that's a really excellent prompt. And I'm going to read what I wrote down. Alright. When I was little, I met my grandfather once. He was in a wheelchair in a hospital eating green jello. I thought the green jello was hilarious. The fact of the green jello was what kept relating to everyone when I told about it, as though it was this crazy thing. I don't know, I guess certain of the jello's qualities, neon, viscous, the fact it's marketed to children through Cosby and later the idea, do you remember that the jello itself is alive, Frankenstein style? And he was a serious old man whose dignity was undercut by the bright, unctuous blob he was forcing down the spoon. The facts of his rapid decay, his distance from my mother, the fact that soon I would never see him again, I'm sure these registered me. But already the idea of you have to laugh at some things or you'll go crazy or you'll be too sad was with me an unhealthy amount. Even now I'm agonizing over how to make this funny, so it's palatable, so it goes down easy, so it's not just me whining, so it's not just David Copperfield crap. I can't imagine what my mother was going through during this meeting. Like here are your grandchildren. I thought you should see them before you croak or whatever. This man, she has told me, who would go into alcoholic seizures and she would think, I don't care. I hope he dies. I don't even like Jell-O. I gag. So that's that. Now I'm going to read you a listicle, which is like an article that's in the form of a list that I wrote for the Tusk. And it was kind of, I'm not sure to what extent I should explain the joke of this, but it's like, do you guys have friends who post BuzzFeed articles?
Yeah.
That are like,
Oh yeah.
you know you're a writer if, and they're like these bullet points, but they kind of make writers sound like really horrible people. Like they'll use your personal life and your work or whatever. So, anyways, I wrote a thing that was like that. It's called 5 Things Only Writers Who Are Human Monsters Understand. Number 1, writers can often be seen hanging out at coffee shops. You go into a coffee shop, you might be tempted to make conversation with a ruggedly disheveled person hunched over a laptop with an intense look in his or her eyes. Don't do it, friend. This person only cares about fame, ego stroking, and possibly bathing in the blood of the innocent. Number 2, writers love tea. If you're a writer, you know you love to suck down that tea. You also know you're a soulless husk who will drain anybody who approaches of their essence, like so much constant comment. Number 3, writers who use details about your personal life and their work. You get close to one, they'll write about you. Get ready for some embarrassing details shows on Netflix, playing Angry Birds, or just committing grisly, unspeakable acts of murder in the woods somewhere. Number 5, be gentle with your criticism. Writers are very, very sensitive. Statements that begin, one thing you can do here, or I was confused by, work better than statements that begin, you stabbed me, or, Jesus Christ, there's blood everywhere. That's your list.
Get that on BuzzFeed, Nate. Make some money.
Okay. I'm going to read from something that I've been working on. I haven't really showed it to that many people. It's a new project, and let's see, it has a similar amount of mommy issues as the first thing that I read. And here, so it's this part that I'm going to read is an excerpt from the main character's memoir, which is called "The Flames, the Flames, the Flames, the Flames." A mother's desire, a mother's desire, the destruction of a family, a formidable conflagration. And so here goes this. Christmas Eve. I'm home from college, and probably my younger sister Sarah's in her room, furiously listening to some Zeppelin on headphones and painting or something. The twins, Lizzie and Will, have become obsessed with magic tricks, and Will is trying to free himself from a straitjacket while Lizzie yells encouragement at him. Joey is perfectly articulate for a 4-year-old. He just prefers to scream. He stands there screaming at Lizzie and Will is bitching about how it's messing up his concentration. No excuses, says Lizzie. My father's in his classic old chair and grading position, furrowed brow, but it's a facade. I don't know this yet, but old Joe has in the past year fallen in a group with he's fallen in with a group of Bohemian grad students and begun dating a tattooed lady named Satana who strips professionally for a metal band. In doing so, he's driven my mother out of the house. Tonight he sits victorious, possibly resentful of the 3 little animals running around in front of him. I'm upstairs, probably wearing a suit for no occasion, probably having jacked off 3 times already that day, probably writing a long, unreadable screed about how God is dead or whatever. The phone rings. Joe lets it. Lizzie leaps up to get it, and Joe, in his expert Zen kind of way, raises his hand 2 inches and quiet as ever, says Lizzie. And Lizzie goes back to her magic. My mother leaves a voicemail. You home? I drove by and the car's not out front. Where are you? Where did you take the kids on Christmas Eve? Will and Lizzie have Asperger's, so inflections don't trouble them. They are concerned only with science and the occult. Joey is maybe more troubled by the message, but he doesn't understand why and chooses not to articulate it. The other kids upstairs don't hear. Joe is reading an essay called Beavis and Butthead and the Fall of Man. He marks an apostrophe mistake. The phone rings again. Will used to struggle in his felt trap. Some part of Lizzie thinks, Mommy seems like she really wants to get through to us, and I wonder why Daddy doesn't answer the phone just because she doesn't live here anymore. It seems like logically where a person lives should not determine whether you talk to that person or not when you used to talk to that person, and the only thing that changes is that the person lives somewhere else. Will likely thinks the exact same thing at the exact same time. My mother leaves a voicemail that's just a sigh. I lean back and admire a sentence I've written. Empirically, it has been proven unto us again and again, every fault, every weakness, every church. I stroke my nascent goatee. Sarah paints a long, thick red line across the middle of the canvas and feels her heart surge at Robert Plant sing, Oh my Jesus! Joe feels the power of his own vocal cords, pitching a shriek up into the then cracking up with laughter at his own growl. Will feels his closeness to escape now. Another centimeter and he'll be there. And Lizzie feels it too, and she stops saying anything to him, just stares, and despite the screaming all around, the moment between them is quiet. Then they say some made-up words to each other in the crazy language that only they speak. Joe puts down Beavis and Butthead and the Fall of Man and begins reading another essay, Daria and the Downfall of Modern Woman. He circles an awkward synonym choice. My mother calls again. You took them to your slut girlfriend's house, didn't you? She begins with all the dramatic flair of her short-lived character Vanessa St. Clair on CBS's Love Emergencies, 1982 to 1983. You took my children to what I imagined to be less an apartment and more of a bombed-out fucking hole in the ground in East Oakland somewhere, probably heroin needles on the ground, to celebrate Christmas with her and probably with her other boyfriends who are like bikers who kill people, who rape, who run guns and drugs and are therefore indirectly responsible for countless thousands of others' deaths, who cover themselves themselves in each other's piss and shit for ritual. This is the example you set for them? You shut me out of your life and out of their lives like I'm worthless for this pure celebration of filth and amorality? Perfect. Fine. Perfect. A perfect reflection of who you are, you unspeakable Hitler, you garbage hell person, you who have always been a worthless Hitler garbage hell piece of shit. Good. And for the children as well, good, because they are sentient, they are conscious, they can tell the difference between right and wrong, between good and evil, and in their passivity too, they too are betrayers. They too are fucking murderers. Not once, I'm sure, did a single one of them protest. Did a single one say, this is wrong. It's wrong to shut out mommy like she's nothing. Like she didn't birth every one of us. Like she didn't exhaust herself every day of her life for 20 years, pumping us out and disciplining us, and buying us stupid fucking toys and shit, and playing with us, playing our little board games, and little clapping games, and little hiding games. Oh, where's mommy? Well, her own needs slipped away. Well, her skin rotted, and her hair fell out, and her tits fucking sag. Well, we pulled life-giving juices every day from her $1 million cinematic fucking tits, literally siphoning out her worth and viability as a human without a single thought of what she wanted. That it's wrong to discard someone like that. In the name of cheap thrills. In the name of daddy's dick. Good. Fine. Fine and good. Good for all of you. Good, 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 good. Joey begins to cry, and the jazz-like explorations of his previous screams seem to push him to wail with as great and broad and upper range as any child ever has, piercing highs and inhuman lows. Joe gets up and gets a pill bottle out of the junk drawer and takes a pill, downs it with a glass of water. Then he goes to the liquor cabinet and grabs a bottle of whiskey and drinks directly from it. Then he takes another swig and sits down and, hands trembling, looks at his papers for about a second before he smacks the stack of papers across the floor. Lizzie says, are you using your thumb? The book says it's important you use your thumb to grab the key. Will says, I'm so close. An hour later, Candy is walking around the premises with a can of gasoline, dousing the succulents and the cacti in the grass. She gets to the back of the house and pours the gasoline all over the porch, and as she's lighting a match and dropping it, she can see Lizzie and Will and Joey playing, and she feels the enormity of her mistake toppling down on her at an unimaginable speed. She bangs on the window. My father startles, gets up, gives a confused frown upon recognizing her, then sees the flames and the look on her face and runs to the door and lets her in. My father and mother run further inside the house. Joe grabs Joey and tells Lizzie and Will to run outside as fast as they can. Both twins nod stoically and run like champs without questioning anything. Joe runs up to my room, yells that the house is on fire, and we both run down while Candy does the same for Sarah. This is the last thing we do together as a family. Seconds later, we are all on the lawn, watching the blaze. Lizzie and Will are placid, speaking nonsense softly at each other in analytical tones. They seem to deal with every new encounter or sensation as if it is one wholly new in the world, and that the way in which they mutually choose to respond to it is of utmost importance to everyone. Joey, too, is quiet. She turns fixed. Sarah paces. It's possible the way I look when I'm in a truly introspective mood is entirely different from how I look most of the time, which happens to be a pre-rehearsed attempt at looking introspective when I'm actually just imagining receiving some kind of emotional or physical validation from someone I'm attracted to. Joe looks over to Candy, and the ambivalence he would logically feel. She has burned the house down, destroyed all the fine china, all the expensive sheets, his papers, his life's work, the computer, the television, all the books, some of them rare and first editions, Sarah's artwork, every toy we ever had as children. But she did so because she was mistaken, arguably misled even, and she saved everyone upon realizing her error. This ambivalence begins to turn to full-scale tenderness. The orange light plays up her high cheekbones, those same cheeks he grasped so many times as an ambitious young man. Man, so full of dreams that have nothing to do with a house full of fleshy, expensive creatures, or with a biker mistress, or with grading papers. Dreams that only had to do with her. The way she'd pour coffee in the morning, so careless but never spilling. The way she'd sass him, the little skirts she'd wear, the way other men would look at her when she wore those little skirts. Her burgeoning talent on stage, her fiery energy, what he once unfortunately described to me as Zelda Fitzgerald energy. Of course, we know now that Zelda wrote much of the great later work attributed to Scotty, and that Scotty kept Zelda in a state of untreated mental illness with booze and gaslighting. But of course that's not what Joe meant. He meant crazy muse. He meant vigor and challenge and thrill and inspiration. He feels all this now for her, and calls back to every other time his life has felt for her, until he looks down and notices the answering machine he's holding in her hand. The answering machine she must have taken a moment in the chaos to grab before helping the kids, which contained the tape that would, when played in court, exonerate